The new segment, Turn It Up, and you got me that head skateboarding down Hunter Street after the grand final. Anyway, new segment, Turn It Up. Gal, Freddy, Gus, sharpest minds or one sharp mind? True chat, strong opinions. Start with you, Gus. The Dogs yesterday, Josh Addo-Carr came off injured. How is he?
Yeah, he's actually okay. X-rays have cleared him of any fracture. Just so people understand why he stayed on the field. When he first did it, was kind of diagnosed quickly as an AC joint. And they thought, can you get through to half-time? We could give it a pain-killing injection, a bit of anti-inflammatory, which he was prepared to do. It was obviously sore. When they got off at half-time and looked at it again, they thought it was something more. They thought that maybe there was a fracture, so they got him off. He was keen to get through to half-time and see whether or not he can get some pain relief. The diagnosis now is that he's got a significant soft tissue injury. There's no fracture, and I understand that's good news. I don't know when he'll be back though.
Okay, so a chance at next week maybe. Okay, this year we've all sort of tipped the Broncos pretty much up the top to win it. Worried after Vegas?
It's only round one, and there was enough in that game where I saw some signs of that in last year, but they were able to go and win games. There's a good chance they've gone away, and I think sometimes when you get beaten in the grand final, some teams will go away and just that'll be their driving force the whole off-season about going back and doing it again. Be hard up there, very different, getting pats on the back, and they were very brilliant.
I think that's going to be the issue. I mean, I look at the Cowboys the year before. No one expected them to do too much. They finished top four, went really, really well. Last year, I think they thought that what didn't stink, and they thought it was going to happen again. It never happened again. They didn't work hard enough in the preseason like they did the year before. I just hope for the Brisbane and Brisbane fans that they've worked as hard as they did in this off-season as they did last year, and they can come into this season and play similar sort of footy. I think I agree with Freddie. Round one, I think they'll come good. I'm still tipping to finish top four. But they have had some big losses. Flegler is a huge loss. Farnworth is a huge loss. Like Flegler was an intimidating player for their side, a young front row on the rise. He's a big loss. He's the next one I was going to bring up. The thing about Kurt Capewell, okay, there may be better back rows there, or they perceive to be better back rows there at the moment. When you're winning, everything's okay. When you're winning games, everything's fine. Doesn't really matter. When you lose 2 or 3 games in a row, that's when you need experience. That's when you need someone there to say, settle down, boys. We'll be right. We'll do this, we'll do that, we'll come good. That's what Capewell would have done for that side. So him not being there, I think they have lost a bit of experience there. So much falls back on Adam Reynolds' shoulders. Can his body hold up? We'll have to wait and see.
Well, the key of the Broncos, without doubt, is Reece Walsh. Once in a lifetime player. Highly marketable, but he's flamboyant, he's extroverted, paints the nails and all that sort of stuff. Which I could.
If he walks in grand final day with sunnies on at night.
Here we go. Yeah.
What would you do?
Yeah. Look, it's just a different era, boys. It really is. Kids are like this. Reece Walsh is a real team man. He's a really hard trainer. He's really focused on his football. But off the field, he's like most young footballers today with, they've got managers and they've got a brand. And that's just the modern era. That's just the way it is. You wouldn't cop that back in our day. Senior players wouldn't tolerate that. It wouldn't have to be the coach.
Well, senior players, that, for me, I don't care. Paint the nails, couldn't give a rat's. Because I've been there. I've been a mugler, without doubt. But I had Paul Harrigan slap me saying, if you do that again, I'm going to punch you in the head.
Mate, I had
just
one
sec there, Freddie. So on Reece, grand final day with the Sunnies, it's got to come from the senior players, not the coach, and say, mate, don't put pressure on us. Don't put pressure on yourself. So have the Broncos got enough strong senior players?
Oh, they're young. Well, they've got Adam Reynolds. They've relied on Adam Reynolds.
But is that an issue? They haven't got the strong blokes.
Yeah, well, they've just got rid of, like we just said, they've got rid of Capewell. Flegler looks like that tough sort of person.
I saw a really good quote by Phil Jackson about Dennis Rodwell. What was his name? Rodman.
Yeah.
Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman every now and then had to go and do 3 days in Vegas just to have a blowout. Drink, smoke, gamble, womanise, do whatever he wanted to do. And he went there during the playoffs.
Sounds awful.
And the media came in and saw Phil Jackson and said, is that a distraction to you? He said, not to us, it's a distraction to you. And I think the media get distracted by this a lot. Internally, they don't get distracted by it.
And internally...
Players today expect that.
Yeah.
They're just different.
And I think internally that they would see how hard he works or how hard he doesn't work. And if he's there doing all the right things at training, on the training paddock, doing the best thing for the team, and then he carries on like that on the weekend, I don't mind it. The only other sport I know anything about is boxing, okay? And you need to have shameless self-promotion to make any sort of money. And I think that's where he's at the moment. I don't think it affects the team. As long as he works hard at training, I don't think it's an issue for him.
Freddie, when you were coming through, Royce Simmons, one of the senior players, any yarns about Royce?
So, very early. So in my first game, some good things happened to me anyway. So I stepped through my first touch, chipped the fullback, Brandy scooped it off the ground, scored the try, and I'm thinking, how good am I? He sidled up next to me, little fat bloke, on the field, literally walking back as Brandy's taking the goal kick. He said, you ever effing kick the ball on tackle 3 again, I'll kill you. Mate, we've just scored a try. And then a week later, because I used to put an earring in after the game, so I put the earring in, and a couple of them grabbed me down in the club, grabbed me, they just ripped the earring straight out. My ear's bleeding, just ripped it straight out and said, we don't do earrings.
See, times have changed, though. Times have totally changed. There was a different day back then. It's just not the same now. It just isn't.
Did you ever wear the earring again?
No, the earring went.
What about Gus? You've managed different personalities and had to jump on them.
Yeah.
How would you handle?
It's interesting. Depends on the personality of the player. Well, again, another great quote. You know, like average players just want to be left alone. They just want to do their own thing, and you know, good players want to be coached. The great players want the truth, and I think sometimes the truth is what you need to give your great players. And I think too, if you hold your top player, your great players to a certain level, then it's a message for everybody else in the club and everyone else in the team. If the coach is prepared to do that to our best player, crikey, I've got to pull myself into line. You know, and I think the best player understands it, and if he's the right personality, and usually you pick the right mark, they respond to it, they get it. They mightn't like it, but they get it, and then they usually get a good result out of it. But I think the great players like the truth, and I think that's what you've got to give them.
I remember a good one, playing for the Roosters, and all my teammates were coming up to me going, mate, we're getting flogged. It was the pre-season, we're getting flogged, getting hammered. And they said, can you say something? Yeah. So I ring Ronnie, and I said, Ronnie, mate, we're getting towed up here. I said,
Ronnie Palmer.
Yeah, Ronnie Palmer was our trainer. And Gus was the coach. And Ronnie, that was it. That was the end of the conversation. So I'm sitting on my lounge one night. I see Gus's number come up. Hey, Gussie. Effing Gussie, me. you ever go to the training? He said, you're the player, you be the player, I'm the coach, I'll tell you what to do. And it was in pretty colourful language. And you know what? We learn a lot. You learn a lot, especially Gus knew his job, knew how to sort of prepare a team, and sometimes, and I find a lot now, like a lot of players, they're a little bit more educated than they used to be, and they think they know what's right for them, but...
There's a lot of it. You know what? Players have got a lot of coaches these days. You know, player managers are actually going out and getting coaches for them. They're getting other senior players to coach them. They're getting their own medical people. They're getting their own sprint coaches. Players have got a lot of coaches and a lot of people in their ear these days. You've got to get them to focus on the bloke that should be coaching them.
One team town. My old club, Newcastle, the way they performed the other night, similar to Brisbane, one team town, mad town, getting pats on the back all off season.
Yep.
You think you're working hard, you think you're rock hard fit, but after the pats on the back, you might have a pizza tonight. We don't train Thursday. You know what? I'm going to go for a beer. Can that affect playing in a one-team town?
I thought the way they played...
Newcastle
compared to Canberra, which, you know, Canberra had a game plan. The halfback kicked the ball 25 times.
He was great, wasn't he?
It was great, but they had a game plan. It was very simple. They had a couple of young blokes in their team. You just run hard with support, and I'm going to kick you till victory.
Yeah, that's all.
Mate, Newcastle had 5 kickers. Jackson Hastings had 7 kicks. That was their most. Like, it just shows you that they were all over the place. They were hoping.
I asked you.
Hoping something was going to happen.
What do you think of the Knights? And what did you say to me? They played like they were all the team superstars.
I thought they started well. And leading into half-time, I thought they were probably the better team. But the second half, as Freddie said, they just played a simple game plan. Canberra just ran hard, tackled hard, and the halfback just kicked the ball relentlessly, put him in corners, made him come out. They didn't want to do it. They didn't want to play the tough game. So look, maybe that is an issue for them. Obviously, I think their coaching staff will be good enough to know, train them hard enough throughout the off-season that they don't think that. And look, I've never had the Knights in my top 8 anyway. I think the loss of Dom Young is a huge loss. I mean, I remember the pre-game the other night, we showed the game last time they played Canberra. Dom Young was involved in 3 or 4 tries in that game alone. I reckon he won on his own 3 or 4 games last year. So you take that away from that team. I know they've got to replace him with someone, but I don't think they make the 8 anyway.
Yeah, I think Brisbane and Newcastle both had the same thing. I think they had good years last year, felt like they'd gone enough during the off-season, then tried to come out and show us all the new things they had in the round one, where Roosters and Canberra played the perfect round one game. In round one, what do you want to do? Hold on to the ball, kick long. That's what you want to do. And that's what those two teams did. And virtually Newcastle and Brisbane imploded. They just waited for those two teams to beat themselves. It'll be completely different next week.
Yeah, next week.
Next week will be completely different.
We
The
got
mindset.
Brisbane Thursday night. They take on South, don't they?
Yep.
How do you reckon they'll lame up?
I think they'll be great. They'll win. They'll win. They just weren't on the right plane. You know, Roosters just allowed Brisbane to beat themselves.
Okay, well, great segment, boys. Very good.
Good to eat the food.
I come over at a bar with Joe with avocados.
Yeah, well, I wanted
Water,
a
orange
Bloody
juice,
Mary.
across
but they
It's
wouldn't
after
give
12 o'clock, so...
We'll get there one day.
Okay, let's go to a break. After the break, we got big talk on State of Origin. Turn it up, we're back. Origin. Freddie, you haven't spoke... Origin. You haven't spoke publicly at all
No.
about not being re-signed as coach. How much did it hurt?
Yeah, it hurt a lot. The process hurt. The way it was all done. When you lose, you got to understand, as a coach, you understand that your job is in jeopardy. But I feel like in the discussions that the job was there if I wanted it. The job was there at the end of the day. They were turning a 12-month job into a couple of month job, 5-month job.
Yeah, what was all about the 5 months? What was
So when I went in to discuss sort of my view of what went on in the review, basically I said I'll put my hand up to do a couple more years and then I'll finish after 2 more years and just sort of have a process and get someone else in. And then I sort of got called a couple of days later and they said, well, the job's getting turned into, you'll get signed on in March and it'll only go for a year. So you get signed on in March and it finishes in, I think it was August
I
or
didn't
the end of
understand
July.
the 5 months. What
Neither
was
do I.
with the 5
So
months?
they must be trying to say that the period of coaching only runs from basically the football season, I suppose they want to say, and during the Origin period, rather than being a 12-month job. So as far as the coach goes, it was your choice to step away.
So you're only employed during that period?
Yeah, that's right there.
Yeah.
But so for being the coach goes, it's your choice to step away. You weren't let go,
Would you have done
How much
anything?
would that have inhibited you? If rather than doing a 12-month gig, just doing the Origin period, what would have that changed?
I just didn't like the idea that you were acknowledged as the coach. You're then for there answering questions as the coach. You're doing things in the off season as a coach. The way State of Origin is at the moment is pretty much it is a 12-month job.
How much preparation goes into it?
Well, there are heaps.
Yeah.
Like, you sort of because it's funded very well from a point of view of you're trying to get the players up to their optimum level because they need to be. So you get the opportunity to set up a camp as well as you can, which takes a lot of preparation. You're looking at players, you're looking at welfare, you're looking at all different things. Along with that, obviously the community side I used to get involved with, which I thought was a big part of coaching New South Wales.
You connected the whole state back to
We
the
tried
team
to.
with the Hogs stuff.
And I went to the boss, and he was really good. Trotto, from a point of view, I spoke to him last year before, and I said, the media's going to come very hard. And I could feel that coming because the way it was is if you lost 1 year, then the following year you just lost the job if you got beat 2 years in a row. And I said, maybe we should sign now just to take some of that pressure off. And he agreed at the time, but nothing ever happened. So, and I thought it was a pretty tricky year from the point of view of the way the media approached selections and the pressure they put on, although they put a lot of pressure on between players and coaching staff. So, it was just too good for me, I've got to say. And we got the first game was disappointing. Because
the last 10 minutes there was just...
We're in front with 10 minutes to go.
How did we lose that one?
And we had a drop, they had a drop out. They got the ball back and scored the following set. So, that was disappointing, but, they were too good.
Michael Maguire, new coach, how do you reckon he'll go?
No, I think he'll do a great job. Like, obviously, I'm a Blue and I'll support the Blues. And remember, he's coached at every level. He's won a premiership. He's now coached at international level, won games for New Zealand. So I suppose it's the last frontier for him to really conquer. I'm sure, I've got no doubt he would love to have coached Origin, love to be involved in Origin as a player back in the day, but never made it. Now he's a coach, and as I said, won premierships, won international games. I think he'll be great. I think he'll be passionate. He'll be intense, and I think he'll be good.
What do you reckon?
Might be different for the Blues. I mean, we've sort of had, over the last 20 years, I guess, blokes like Ricky Stewart, Laurie Daly, yourself, we've had ex-players, and it's kind of like what we created with the New South Wales Blues a long time ago. It's kind of been just being passed on. And whilst it's unfortunate for Brad, Michael Maguire, I think, will be different. It might be just a little bit of a freshen up and a new look at the way they do Origin. Whether it's successful or not remains to be seen, but he's actually coached in the representative arena, did a really good job with New Zealand. And it just could be a fresh look or fresh eyes over the way they do things, what they talk about, what they think about Origin.
Origin was always about that, wasn't it? Where
Yeah.
you come from your club
Yep.
and you come and enjoy the new players, the new coaches.
Yeah.
So, I don't disagree with, the fact they've got a new coach.
And
I
you'll
think
have
it'd be
people-
good.
You'll have enough people around him as well that have been involved in Origin before that know what it's all about. Like, I don't necessarily think you need a coach who's played Origin. Obviously, it's history shows us what it's pretty much been. But I mean, he'll have help around him of players that have played Origin before.
Well, what's Billy done right then?
Well,
It's Queensland.
it's
Queensland, yeah.
It's all about look, they're quality players. Like, I think at the end, and so did the Blues. I think last year we had a couple of key players that were out, which helped Queensland.
Turbo and Latrell not being there stung.
Mate, Cleary was out too.
And Nathan,
Cleary
yeah.
was out as well, we've got to remember. I think he missed the last 2 games. So, I mean, look, we talk about this Queensland stuff, and at the end of the day, I think at times they've just had the best players in the most important positions on the field, and I think that reflected last year
Very
also.
different.
Well, they're best.
Well, it's very different. Just from, the greatest example I thought was, so after Adelaide, when we got beaten Adelaide a couple of years ago, and you said Nathan shouldn't be halfback, that was the front page. Nathan ends up comes out, has a blinder game 2. We win the game at game 2. But the front page was Nathan Cleary's career should be over. And then, so they got beat by 30. We beat them by 30 at home. And the front page of the Queensland newspaper was Xavier Coates scoring a try in the corner saying, what a try. They just got pumped by 30. You imagine if New South Wales got pumped by 30, you think they'd be celebrating a try, the one try we scored? It's just the nature of New South Wales and Queensland is very different.
I think from a longer term perspective, one of my concerns is that other than the Panthers Academy, there aren't too many other clubs in New South Wales that are actually producing a lot of New South Wales qualified players. We all tend to shop in Queensland, we shop in New Zealand, Pacific Islands, fellas that are going to be, that aren't eligible actually to play for New South Wales, or that's not their priority. And other than Penrith, who now provide the bulk of the New South Wales side because of their success, I don't think there's enough priority by the New South Wales Rugby League and the New South Wales-based NRL clubs about producing talent for the New South Wales Blues.
So you're in charge. What's the percentage of players that you're bringing into your roster?
From
point of view of local kids, New South Wales kids.
Well, you look at a team like the Roosters, they've got no junior league whatsoever, all right? And they bring players in from New Zealand, Pacific Islands, Queensland, New South Wales country, wherever they can get them. But there's not enough focus on that. Panthers, who had their academies out west of New South Wales, have been able to produce, players from over that way, players in the local junior area. The other junior leagues around Sydney are struggling, all right? So the NRL clubs who want success are not necessarily focusing on
why are they
producing
struggling?
New South Wales-based players. Well, it's...
See, I'm an advocate for weight divisions.
Yeah.
You've got the little kids playing. It's got to be
Well,
safe.
I'll tell you
what you're saying.
what the game has a lack of. The game has a lack of halves, and the game has a lack of front rowers. Right at this point in time, I don't know whether that's the COVID years or new rule changes or junior league coaching or whatever, but there is a shortage in both those key
That's
positions.
why the halves are, because the kids are terrified to play when they're kids, but also the overcoaching in juniors with halves
Absolutely.
is criminal.
Yes, but back to Origin, you're saying that the New South Wales have a lack of developing New South Wales players, but when you look at Queensland, they got their however many clubs they've got up there, and they all want to play for Queensland. They're all probably eligible to play for
Well, they've got
Queensland.
4 NRL clubs now,
Yeah.
and they might end up with 5 or 6.
And all their juniors, the majority of their juniors will be eligible to play for Queensland, whereas a lot of our juniors are selecting Polynesian teams, or they're not from New South Wales.
Yeah.
Okay, boys, time's up. Well done. Well done, Gus. Turn it up.
Thanks, mate.
He'll be getting a logie.
Turn it up.
See you after the break.
This year, NRL on 9 is your one-stop shop for all footy.
That's right, Freddy. Not about the highlights. Action. 7 days a week.
Billy and Gus podcast, get that on your drive on the way home. Immortal Behaviour. Grab a seat on the couch for that. And, of course, my favourite, Freddy in the 8.
The best footy brains, the biggest games.
Don't trust the algorithm. Subscribe to NRL on 9 and get all your entertainment there.